Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.
Hello and welcome to an exciting episode of the Expert Interview Series featuring Andrew Knight, famously known as the Automation Panda. Andrew is a renowned advocate for software quality, dedicating his passion and expertise to BDD, test automation, software testing, and software development. Andrew is a sought-after international speaker, engaging audiences at conferences, webinars, and workshops. His software blog, Automation Panda, serves as a valuable resource for those navigating the complexities of software quality. Andrew currently serves as a principal architect at Cycle Labs, based in North Carolina. In the hybrid role, he contributes to optimizing business process in supply chain and warehouse domain using Cycle testing platform. So let's unwind Andrew's journey, insights, and evolving landscape of software quality. Welcome to the Expert Interview Series, Andrew.
Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Great question. So back in 2016, gosh, so long ago now, hard to believe. I had recently joined LexisNexis, and it was the first time that I become a senior engineer. And so I was like, ooh, fancy. I have arrived at a big career goal, a milestone. I'm now senior. People should be listening to me finally, right? And I asked myself, what's next? Like, what's the next steps in my career?
Right.
And what I realized is that up until that point, pretty much all of my work had been behind closed company doors.
Right.
And so even, generic wiki pages about best practices, they were all stuck internally to some company. And I'm like, wait a minute, that stuff is fairly generic, right? There's nothing proprietary about it.
Right.
It'd be really cool if I could share that more widely. Because I started seeing other people in the software development and testing space, they have blogs, they speak at conferences. I'm like, why can't I do that? So I decided as a New Year's resolution for 2017 that I was going to start writing a blog. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I had ideas to write about, but I'm like, okay, so how do I make my own website? Like, what do I do? I found WordPress.com, super simple. They take care of everything. It's like brainless, right? You just go in there and type stuff. I'm like, cool, easy, right? Pay a little money, boom. And I'm like, okay, I need a name because nobody knows my name, Andrew Knight. And plus, if you Google Andrew Knight, there's like a ton of Andrew Knights in the world.
Correct.
I'm like, I need something catchy. And so it's like, all right, the trend in software right now is you have a project, you name it after a vegetable or an animal. Well, I like pandas, and everybody likes pandas. They're cute, they're cuddly, all that stuff. What am I going to talk about? Test automation. Automation, panda. Boom. Registered the domain name, and there we were. Next thing you know, it's like once a week I was writing a new article because I was into it, and then here we are today.
Nice. That's quite a story. I think blogs were prevalent there, but were they actually were they actually read? Because nowadays everybody is writing a blog. But at that point of time, I think in 2017, they were more serious writing stuff.
Well, I would say that blogs haven't gone out of style because when you write articles, it's text-based content. And so text-based content is very easy to spread and to consume. It's also got a much lower barrier to entry to produce. If you're doing video production, you need a good camera, you need the lights. Like I spent like $400 on these Elgato lights that are on me right now. I look good, right? But a lot of people aren't willing or able to jump into that. Plus you need a good microphone, and then you got to tune it and tweak it, and you're never satisfied with the production. You're always trying to do it better. Whereas a blog, you need a keyboard, right? And then you push the publish button, and it's out there, and it's easy to consume, and also like all the chat GPTs and AIs, they pick it up now. So it's like, right?
Making the life easier now.
Exactly. So I would say it's not that blogs have become passé or gone out of style. It's just there's other kinds of content, and they still have their place.
Right.
True networking. Okay, so more seriously, but as a software quality champion, if you could call it that, for a decade I had been your rank and file software engineer and test, right? I always said I was building solutions to testing problems. And I never identified so much as a tester as just a software engineer focused on a particular domain, and that domain happened to be testing. And that's why I was very heavy into automation versus manual or exploratory testing, because I love coding. I love building things. I'm a builder at heart. And so being that software engineer and test for about a decade or so, it's like you are essentially a developer, right? You're building scalable systems. You have to, think of clean code practices. You have to be testing your tests. You have to worry about scale, right? All these kinds of things. And then, on the side, I would do other kinds of projects too. Like I'm very involved in the Python community. I've built web apps on the side using things like Django and Flask and Fast API. Right. A couple years ago, I had transitioned from being a software engineer and test to being a developer advocate at Applitools. Right. And in that role, I wasn't responsible day to day for making sure that tests are running and coverage is happening. That role kind of freed me up a little bit to do other kinds of things. And then coming into Cycle Labs, I actually had a bit of a personal history with the company and the people behind it. They're located here in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I live. I've known this team for a long time. In fact, the CEO of the company found me through my blog, automationpanda.com, back in 2018. That's how we first met. And so timing was right. And so I joined Cycle Labs, and they wanted me to essentially be like their principal engineer, the one who is guiding the product development from a technical aspect, right? Knowing what we need to build into this platform, because Cycle produces a test automation platform for supply chain warehouse. Right. So it's like in one sense, I'm kind of back in that software engineer and test role, in that I'm building solutions to testing problems. It's just, rather than being the one responsible for the execution of tests for some company, I am building the platform that other companies use for their testing, right? I'm still building a testing platform. It's just in a different kind of context. So that's kind of how that transition happened.
Right. And how do you find the job like? I mean, is it more convenient? Does it give more time to you?
Oh my gosh, I love my new job. It's wonderful. It's really cool because I feel empowered to do the right things for the platform. I don't have to fight as many, internal political battles, because I'm trusted. I've known these folks for forever, and they know me, and they trust me, which is really nice. And so I've kind of taken ownership of the product roadmap for our platform. And I'm already working on some cool projects. I don't want to share them yet because they're not released, but they're coming soon, and stuff we're doing is really cool. So being able to be hands-on developing that and to be able to, deliver it's going to be really exciting. Sure, great question. So TAU, gosh, that started. The first courses came out in 2019. Okay. TAU is run by Applitools, which is my previous employer. I was not the one who created TAU. That pre-existed me. It was the brainchild of people at Applitools, and Angie Jones was the one who really spearheaded it. So another guy, Raja, he was kind of in the background helping. I know this because I saw his names on all the credentials, right? But from its launch for the first, I guess, 23 years, it was really driven hard by Angie Jones. She was the one, leading it. She was the one working with the instructors, mapping out the courses for the content and all. And so I first found out about it because I had worked with Angie Jones previously. And so, I followed her on LinkedIn and Twitter, and I see she's pumping out this TAU thing. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. That's amazing. I wish I could be part of it. And then in spring of 2019, I think it was, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, Andy, do you want to publish a course on TAU? And I'm like, absolutely, yes, right? And so my first course on TAU was Web Element Locator Strategies, which was how do you write like good XPath and CSS selectors, and how do you choose to use IDs or something else, right? And it was because I've written an article on the Panda blog about Web Element Locators, and then she read it. She's like, this will make a great TAU course. I'm like, sure. And then later I had developed a series of 3 courses on Python testing. There's one on PyTest, one on Selenium, and one on PyTest BDD.
Mm-hmm.
And so I published those, and then years later, I actually worked at Applitools. And as soon as I joined, Angie left, and so I essentially took over TAU, right? So I became director, and so I was doing the things that Angie was doing. When I had left, I think there were about 70 courses from about 50 different instructors.
Wow.
And if you look at the set of instructors, it's all very well-known, respected leaders in the testing space.
Wow.
You know, we got people like Philip Ritz, who has redid the Cypress learning path. We have Renata Andrade, who's did the Playwright path. You know, we've got like Angie Jones herself has delivered a number of courses. I'm up there. You know, and the list goes on and on and on. And you're like, wow, this is a star-studded, action-packed platform.
It's like Avengers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Avengers. It's the Avengers of test automation. It's pretty incredible. Sure. So, I mean, as we all know, there's this almost like this war raging between the different browser automation tools right now. I mean, personally, my favorite one is Playwright. I was the first Playwright ambassador. Yeah. Now there's about 10 of us. But what I really like about Playwright specifically is, first of all, its speed, how fast it runs. I mean, they've really, really optimized that. I love how the syntax is very user-friendly, especially coming from that more traditional Selenium background in the past. I feel like as I'm writing my Playwright code, is like page, locator, boom, click, right? It just kind of flows with me. And that's more of a personal thing. I know some people are like, I don't like it. Well, fine, you know, it works in my mind or the way my mind works.
Right.
And I also like that it has multiple language bindings. You know, the core implementation is Node.js, but it does provide bindings for Java, C#, and Python. So, you know, you don't have to learn JavaScript just to use Playwright, which is really, really nice.
Okay.
The other tools are all still good too. It's not like I hate these other tools. It's that of a toolbox of very good tools, I have one of preference, but it doesn't mean that the others are not good. I think Cypress is also very good. What I respect about Cypress is that it was the first truly modern web testing framework, right? It's the framework that put developer experience at the forefront. That it would pop up this window and kind of step you through step by step as your test is running. You could see how your test is running. You could debug very easily, and it made it easier to write tests and it wasn't as heavyweight as say, you know, traditional Selenium test automation. And it became the darling of front-end developers because now they have a tool that's already completely in their stack, in their browser with them. Right. And so it made their end-to-end testing a lot easier to the point where Cypress testing became synonymous with end-to-end testing. Like there was a certain segment of people who couldn't even imagine using Selenium anymore. So that was something that was very impactful that Cypress did that to this day still laws respect. And there's nothing wrong with Selenium either. I mean, it's classic. It still works. It's fairly performant if you can tune it right. It's just you need to have layers on top of it because you shouldn't just be making raw Selenium calls. What I would say is, first and foremost, it is far more important for you to learn good programming skills than to learn whatever tool or framework is hot right now. Because if you can learn how to do programming well, you're going to become a much better problem solver, and you're not going to get stuck over silly little things. I would say pick one of the major languages in test automation. Of course, if you're trying to orient towards a particular job, do that. But I mean, Java's a solid choice, JavaScript's a solid choice, C#'s a solid choice, and Python is a solid choice. What I've seen is that Java and JavaScript are dominant. C# and Python are second in the wing. And after that, like the other languages aren't really used for heavy test automation. You know, you can, like every language has a unit test framework, right? But as far as people using a programming language for major black box end-to-end test automation, you just don't see it. Ruby in the past was, but I've seen the metrics on that. Like it crashed hard, So I would stick to one of those 4 big languages. And then after you get good with programming, or if you're already good with programming, then when you pick up a particular tool or framework to learn, again, like principles matter more than mechanics, right? Make sure that you're mindful of how you model your interactions well, that you're picking the right kinds of locators, that you're waiting for elements to be ready on the page appropriately, that kind of thing. And from there, if you can keep those principles in mind, the tool ultimately doesn't matter as much. You're just trying to learn some syntax. And so there are a wealth of resources out there to learn how to use a tool. For what? Test Automation University would be the #1 thing I would recommend, right? Because there are entire learning paths about Selenium, Cypress, and Playwright. Right now I have like a set of talks that I typically give. I talk a lot about Playwright, right? And when I talk about Playwright, I don't want to just be like, here's how you click a button, here's how you scrape text. What I want people to understand with Playwright is how this is a modern web testing framework. Like it is something that meets our needs for today. It is something that not only can handle our tests, but can help us shift how we approach testing web apps.
Right.
And so I walk through what that looks like, and then I usually do like a live demo of the tool. I have spoken a lot about different kinds of test strategy, like how do you go about building good test cases, good test suites, that kind of thing. There's a well-known talk I've given where I compare my software testing convictions to Japanese woodblock art. So you can see like the Japanese art on the back of my wall. I'm a big fan. And how, like these Japanese artists back in the day, they were masters of their craft, and how they put such high quality into their work. What can we learn from that? Right. I've spoken about test data, specifically managing the test data nightmare, because it is an underserved problem that everybody suffers. Right. What are the ways that we can handle it? Like, should we be preparing data ahead of time, or should we be dynamically creating new data as our tests run? Should we be cloning databases or mocking things? Like walking through all those strategies, weighing the pros and cons, and giving recommendations there. In fact, today I'm giving a talk right after our session with the Test Tribe. I as you know, I'm big into the Python community, and I love Python testing. And so I'm giving a live introduction to Python testing with PyTest, where there are no slides, there's no scripts, there's a terminal and VS Code, and I go show people here's how you use PyTest, right? From the ground up. So that's a good bit of my talks. I think I've talked about other things I just can't remember off the top of my head.
So we have these records. We have these recorded talks.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, if you go to automationpanda.com/speaking, I have the entire history with links as recordings have been available. Oh my gosh, it's so hard because there's so much happening all the time. Day to day, I stay plugged into LinkedIn and X, formerly known as Twitter, because I have my feeds there where I can see where all the people in the space are and what they're doing. I also am intentional to go to a number of testing events and conferences throughout the year. As you know, as you just said, I speak a lot, so I get around a lot. But when I'm at those events, not only is it there for me to speak, but it's there for me to learn, right? And so I attend other talks to hear what's happening. What are people doing? What technologies are out there? What platforms are coming up? And also, if they have an expo hall, I go talk to the vendors to see what they're trying to sell. Unfortunately, usually that means I get a whole bunch of email spam afterwards. But at the very least, I can keep a pulse on where the industry is moving so that I know how to keep up, and I can help my own company keep up as well. Absolutely. First, I would say never give up. Things can get tough. People can beat you down. Bugs can be hard to squash, but be tenacious, right? Never give up. Always be learning, because there's so much out there. It can be intimidating to keep up, but it's not impossible. One thing I will say is that in 2024, we have more resources than ever before, right? I had to learn from the school of hard knocks of trying and failing with literally no help, no books, no courses, right? That's not the case today. We have material and we have each other. There's a whole community within software testing and automation. Like that's how we connect. That's how we can encourage each other. So get plugged into all of that is what I would say.
Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to never miss a video from us.